So we talked about the Baker Mayfield, the Deshaun Watson situation and some of the criticism this show has gotten.
It's kind of the Baker Mayfield situation too.
It's turned into it now. So Baker Mayfield was at a youth football camp in Norman, Oklahoma on Tuesday, and he was asked about a possible reconciliation with the Browns if they need to turn to him because of the Deshaun Watson stuff. Here's what Baker had to say yesterday.
I think it's been pretty obvious the mutual decision on both sides is to move on. You know, I'm thankful for my 4 years in Cleveland. There's a lot of ups and downs and a ton of learning experiences that, you know, I'll forever keep with me. Teammates and friends and relationships that I'll have for a lifetime.
But I think a lot of people think if they didn't have a quarterback for the next year, would there be any chance of reconciliation there?
No, I think for that to happen, there would have to be some reaching out. But we're ready to move on, I think, on both sides.
Hey. Is there some hope there?
It sounded like it.
We got some hope there. Come on, we need it.
It sounded like he wants them to crawl back to him.
Well, and what other way would what other way would it have to happen? You know, why wouldn't it be crawling back?
Yeah.
Groveling, begging. You know, why wouldn't it be that?
Down on a bended knee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roses.
Boys to men.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I think the tables have turned. You guys might think this is crazy when I say this. The tables have turned so much to the point where the Browns need Baker Mayfield. I'd go ask for more money. I would go ask for an extension. I'd say
100%.
You're going to throw another year on my deal, and you're going to pay me a big signing bonus that I get right now. Because here's what I know. I know you've got deep pockets. You must think a lot of this team. Maybe not a lot of me, but you must think a lot of this team because you went out and paid a guy more, $80 million in total guarantees more than anyone ever has in NFL history, to sign a guy who didn't play a year ago with all these allegations. And so as much as that's about Deshaun Watson, it's also about where you feel like this team's at because you felt like he was the missing component. Well, guess what? You don't have him right now. But you can have me. And if you want me, you're going to have to pay up for it. And then you can trade me for whatever you want after I ball out this season. Like, I would almost propose it as, yeah, I know you've got the pockets to pay it because I've already witnessed you pay another quarterback at somewhere else. But now he's not going to be there. So you need to figure out a way of compensating me what I want if I'm going to come back and play for your organization. And, oh, by the way, after this year, we're going to figure out a way of you trading me where I want to go because I'm going to ball out and there will be greater trade demand for whatever contract we agree to.
I mean, and at the bare minimum, they are already paying him a guaranteed contract. So you're going to put something on top of that. You're going to put something on top of that. Like, you're going to compensate me. You've embarrassed me. You have made a poor decision in terms of what direction you were going to go in away from me. And while the player on the field is better than who I am, and that might not be up for debate, I think we all will agree that the character issue far has exceeded anything that would matter towards the playing aspect of what's going on here. Baker Mayfield has never been an issue in that manner. You can say what you want to say. He might be brash in your opinion and assumption of how he handles the media, different members of the media. You may not like his commercials where the stadium is his home. You might not like him on the high. I don't know. Who cares? But Baker Mayfield, it has been put in a position where almost, if we're being real here, his career has been put on hold.
Yeah.
And by this decision, it's been put on hold. So you're going to compensate me for that. If I'm Baker Mayfield, I'll come back and I'll play for you. But you're going to compensate me for this. You're not going to just bring me back and it's like, okay, you're still on the roster. Come back and play. No, you were getting rid of me. You didn't want me. You clearly valued someone tremendously more than me. Take in consideration the mental, emotional aspects of going through a season hurt. It's not even like he went through as a regular season, I had a bad season. The entire team, key pieces of the team were hurt, including him, and guys were pushing through, including him, to get through the season on injuries. So to me, 100%. I don't think I closed the door because I think he kept it open. They would have to reach out, one. But two, I'm with you, Q. I think that you definitely go for more compensation, and being the former starter that becomes the relief, pick up the pieces and clean up the mess, and see what we can do with this season person in the scenario, and that does carry value with it.
And we talked about it yesterday. It's not like they were a 2-win team. They won 8 games last year, and they had injuries all over the place. Odell Beckham, that whole situation was a disaster. Jarvis Landry's body was breaking down. Yeah, so it's not like this was just an awful football. They weren't the 4-win team that Deshaun Watson last played for in Houston. All right, they weren't the worst team in the league, and Baker Mayfield was banged up. So you look at the depth chart. I mean, he's better than Jacoby Brissett. He's better than Josh Dobbs, and Deshaun Watson's not there and probably not going to be there. So to me, isn't this all on Andrew Berry? Because if you ask Kevin Stefanski, I'll bet you Kevin Stefanski would say, hey, I'll run it back with Baker. I mean, if we're in this position here and we've got to compete with all the talent in our division and in the AFC, I'd rather deal with maybe the attitude and some of the hurt feelings and run it back with Baker Mayfield. But doesn't this come down to either Andrew Berry or Jimmy Haslam or whoever signed off on all these moves to swallow their pride, understand they're going to have to take a couple of L's this offseason, and they're going to have to make things right with Baker Mayfield? Otherwise, I just don't see how it would happen.
It's almost as if, though, you want to kind of, I don't know, call the season a wash, but it's unfortunate for Kevin Stefanski, the entire roster that you've built to this point that is talented and has the opportunity to do something. It's hard to feel like the NFL's not going to suspend Watson for a year. And if that's the case, what other solution do you have? Who else are you looking for? Do you try to trade him to Carolina, eat some of the monies, and just bring in Sam Darnold? There's not many other. Jimmy G. I think the problem is, a guy like Jimmy G and maybe even Sam Darnold, they might look at it and say, okay, I get an opportunity to go start. Watson's not there. It's a talented roster, all these things. But, it's a one-year deal. And then you're moving on again after a year. Maybe they don't care. I don't know. I'm just saying it's hard to find someone who's willing to come in for a year's time knowing it's not going to be your team and there's no long-term solution for you to want to sign up for that. But it is an opportunity. In Carolina, we don't know that Sam Darnold is going to receive an opportunity. Maybe it'll be Matt Corral. We don't know how that's all going to play out eventually. But we do know this. San Francisco, it sounds like it's Trey Lance. So if that's the case, if you get a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe you find a way of trading for him. But I don't think Baker Mayfield wants to go there. That's the hard thing about this is you're almost making either a 3-team trade or you're doing separate trades where it's like future draft picks or maybe current players on the roster not involving Baker. Because San Francisco doesn't need a quarterback solution, right? Carolina technically doesn't need one. Maybe they just don't like the guy they have that much. So it's going to be interesting to see how it would be orchestrated. That's why you kind of look at it and go, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where Baker Mayfield ends up at this point in time, given how late it is in the year. And he talked about that in this interview. He's frustrated with it because he would have rather been in there for OTAs and minicamp. That time's passed now. And so now he's just hoping to be in there for a training camp with some other teams so he can learn that offense and move forward. But it definitely sounds like he wants the Browns to come crawling back to him. And it would be, I would say, comical to see if that actually ended up taking place.
I think it's what would be one of the most entertaining
but don't you think that – you're right. Don't you think that Cleveland has positioned themselves where no matter what decision they make, outside of using their backups, it's going to be it's just going to be a bad outcome in terms of how they're perceived, how it's reported, how it's covered. they've put themselves in pretty much a no-win situation. If Baker were to come back and play poorly, I mean, does he have the reasoning to say, look at the circumstances I was brought back under? Like, can you really hold Baker Mayfield accountable if this season does become a wash? If this team doesn't perform this year, when you put all that money down on Deshaun Watson to be that missing piece, Cleveland has to look at whoever the quarterback situation or the QB. Well, it doesn't matter because when it comes down to the Deshaun Watson situation, it makes the entire situation bad. There's no way to look at the season unless they're winning. Unless they're winning, that's the only way Cleveland kind of stays face getting through all of the mess that they're sitting in right now is they have to win. Everything else is bad.
Don't you guys think if they have to turn back to Baker Mayfield, because first of all, I think they've supplanted Jacksonville this offseason as the laughingstock of the league. I think that ship has sailed and they are running away with it. But if you were a Browns fan and you're looking at the scenario and the situation the way it is, and that's a great fan base, and Brady would know this better than anybody. I get the feeling if Baker Mayfield came back and started for the Browns, the reception.
He's a hero.
Oh my God, the reception he would get from that fan base. I think they would welcome him back with open arms, and I think they would celebrate him coming back and being the starter there.
I don't think they're going to hold him accountable if he didn't play the best football. I really don't. I don't think the fan base would. Now, I don't know what that means for his career, but I don't think the fan base under these circumstances would feel as though Baker Mayfield was put in a position to have success as a starting quarterback for this team in particular.
Yeah.
Man, it is tough. I think he would receive a warm reception for coming back. A lot of people, though, in Cleveland feel like part of the reason why they got Deshaun Watson or find themselves in this position is because of how Baker Mayfield handled himself in all of it in regards to those contract negotiations. And so it's not completely blameless, but I think a lot of people would probably forget about that to have a shot at being a playoff team again, winning a playoff game. Both things that Baker Mayfield's already accomplished as a Cleveland Browns quarterback. So I'm with you. And by the way, like we tend to forget, like they traded for Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
You know, the Odell Beckham situation gone. You know, I think they'll be better off, you know, this year passing and doing some of the things they'll be doing than what they were in the past, especially when Baker's healthy. So it makes sense. We'll see if the two sides can reconcile their differences.